Full of yourself. A commonly used phrase, and yes, I understand the context, I understand what it means. However, I do want to challenge that. Just because something is popular, just because we're used to a saying, it does not mean that we have to continue to use it. Why is it wrong to be full of ourselves? Isn't it life's ultimate goal to be authentically us, to be 100% you? So why do we say full of yourself? I believe that as human beings, when we look at history, we come up with phrases and sayings that might have an agenda and we don't even know it. I don't know the history behind that phrase. I understand how it's used, but I do want to challenge it because I think that we should be full of ourselves. In fact, I think that what is actually wrong is not to be full of ourselves, but to be full of our ego, to be egotistic, to be egocentric. Yes, because our ego operates from fear. Our ego is the opposite of being ourselves. Being egocentric is not the same as being full of ourselves. It's the opposite. The ego acts from fear, scarcity, envy, doubt, where our true selves is full of confidence, love, braveness, courage. And so I think we need to rephrase it and say, don't be full of your ego, but be full of yourself. Be 100% you. Look back at your little child, at that little kid, at that little girl, that little boy, and think, what did I really want to do? Who am I really? Was I funny, goofy, loud, outspoken? How many things did I stop doing because I was told that it was wrong? How many times did I shrink myself, or did I hide or stayed quiet because I didn't want to be full of myself, because I didn't want people to know that or to think, assume that I was trying to show off, that I was trying to, make somebody else feel like less. You should never dim your light in the fear of making others feel uncomfortable, because that's actually ego. That's the ego speaking to you. You should shine. You should speak up. You should share that idea. You should share that thing that when everybody's having groupthink in a group, when everybody's thinking the same and agreeing with each other, even though that's not really what they think, you can be the one that says, that's not right. That when our society presents something and it makes it seem for decades and decades like it's okay, you can be the one that stands up and says that's not okay. You can go against popular opinion. You can question things. You can speak to things that don't sit well with you. You can shine bright. You can be full of yourself, full of the things that light you up, your passions. You can do that. Now here's the challenge. The challenge is that sometimes we say things for so long that then they get misconstrued and they're actually having a negative consequence to it. Like when people tell us don't be full of yourselves, sometimes without noticing, we start dimming in our light. We start thinking, especially as women, I don't want to be full of myself, so I'm just going to stay quiet. I'm just going to play nice. I'm not gonna say anything about that. Just like when we're told be nice and all these other things that sound good, but I wonder who made them up. Who came up with that? I wonder if there was even an agenda. I wonder if it was from colonizers or from people that wanted to control their people, from people that wanted to keep their power. Oh, it's bad to be full of yourself. You gotta be full of my ideas and my opinions and the things that I want to do, the things that I want for your life. Now, that's egocentric. That's egotistic. To expect other people to be full of your ideas, the things that you say, the things that you want them to be. And that is what's wrong. Not to be full of yourself. Not to be full of the things that you like. To be your true, authentic you. So let's start questioning these phrases. Just because they're common or popular, they're not always right. Because the brain still detects the words, don't be full of yourself. The brain still says subconsciously, subliminally, oh, I can't be myself 100%. Your brain, that's what your brain captures. It's just like with affirmations and declarations, right? We're saying these things, and sure, we understand the context, but do we actually process the context, or do we just say, okay, I don't want to be full of myself? You know how many times I said that? You know where they teach you that a lot? In church. In church, they teach you that a lot. Don't be humble, don't be full of yourself. Yes. Again, when that's taken into the context of not being selfish, egotistical, great. But the problem is that that's not how it's taken many times. I was someone who thought, oh, I want to be humble, so I'm going to downplay what I know. If I knew the answer to something, or if I knew to say something, or if something didn't sit right, I stayed quiet sometimes, because I was like, well, if 10 people are saying this, why am I, and I have this other idea or other approach or a problem with this, why would I think that I'm the one with an answer, with a better thought, with an innovative idea? That's almost like being full of myself. So I'm just going to stay quiet. Or like the saying, calladita te ves más bonita. Quiet, you look prettier. You know, these things can play games on our mind. And these things can actually undermine who we truly are. And the things that we have to give to this world, the things that we can do, the things that light us up. And if you think about it, when you think about church, and again, I'm not criticizing anybody or any, religious beliefs or faith. I have faith. Gosh, I talk about faith all the time. So I'm not talking about faith, but I'm just talking about these worldly systems and groups and organizations, such as organized religion or organized institutions and government. There are things that if we really look back in history, they conveniently favored the ones in power, or the ones trying to manipulate or control or guide or even influence, under the guise of telling you a good piece of advice, how to control you and how to act, right? Sometimes it doesn't sound bad. They're not going to say, don't shine, don't be yourself. They're going to say, don't be full of yourself. Oh my gosh. But we all know that we do need to be 100% ourselves. We do need to be full of ourselves. We just can't let the ego play in. And it's the ego that's fearful. It's the ego that scares. It's the ego that sometimes makes people be selfish and do things that are not right just for their own gain, even if it hurts other people. That's the ego. That's not self. In fact, your true self and your ego are different personas. They're different entities. And ego is the opposite of self. So now when we're equating ego and self, when we're saying don't be full of yourself and saying don't be egotistical, we're equating those two things. So why wouldn't we feel the paradigm? Why wouldn't we feel like, oh, I can't be myself because that's egotistical? Now we're comparing those two. We equate them, and therefore next time I want to be myself, say what I think, do what I want, it's going to feel wrong. It's going to feel like egocentric. But it's not. Let's separate the two. And let's start questioning these sayings. I want to be full of myself. I want to be full of myself, and I'm going to be more full of myself. And that doesn't make me egocentric. It doesn't make me egotistic. In fact, because I'm full of myself right now in this moment, I'm sharing this message with you. And that is selfless. Love you. Besos.